Okay, thanks. So, noting that the prison's conditions are miserable with the overcrowding, for example, so how does the novel coronavirus represent a real threat to the detainees? If you can
Mm.
also
I
explain
mean,
to us.
yeah, we've touched on this a little bit of this already, and now you've kind of brought it
I
down
mean,
to the
talking about also this calls for distance 1.5 meter and
yeah,
this
very hard,
overcrowding.
very very hard. I mean, first of all, I just want to say one thing about this, and it's not really meant as an express criticism, but I guess some of us were dismayed and surprised when the authorities sent in representatives of the National Human Rights Institution with cameras and to come out asserting that the prisons have been cleaned and they've been disinfected and they have all the adequate material that they need, only to have the same day and then days later a detained journalist, Mahmoud Al Jaziri, I think, had remarkably phoned, I don't know, a friend or some sort of independent outlet to say, well, actually, that's not the case at all. That this apparent bill of health that the state authority human rights body had given was actually, I'm sorry, it was bogus. It didn't really stack up. So that doesn't lend a huge amount of, that doesn't give us a huge amount of confidence about what's going on. And as, again, just to go back to the article from The Economist, there is evidence, like in New York, for example, that guards, as you say, the physical distancing is basically impossible or near impossible. That precautions regarding the wearing of masks, the physical distancing, wearing of gloves, as is occasionally recommended, the levels of cleanliness that is required, the normal sort of washing facilities, this recommendation to wash your hands for 20 seconds after being in a possibly exposed area. None of these are being adhered to. So bear in mind also, second of all, that there's already overcrowding in an overcrowding, in that context where hygiene was already compromised. In addition to that, you had a situation where, I'm sorry to say it, but the provision of medical care for cancer, for other illnesses was either slower or non-existent. Made it, again, as the evidence from New York shows, made it a vector for infection, or as I'm kind of, after reading that article from The Economist about New York, I thought it became an incubator for death. And it's not just there. You have to bear in mind, of course, that people, visitors and staff members come and go. They see their own families. So if there's a higher rate of infection within that institution, it goes on to follow that there will be a higher rate of infection in the society at large. And then you go on to ask yourself, as I did, well, okay, what if it comes to pass that Nabil Rajab, Abdul Hadi Khwaja, Hassan Mushema, and Singas, who are either older, who have underlying symptoms anyway, what if they were to die? How would that look if here you have individuals that so many people have called for the release of, if they were to die? Oh dear, it's completely needless. And in a way, this debate is a needless debate. It's a needless debate insofar as that the Bahraini authorities have already recognized that releasing prisoners intrinsically is a good thing. They have provisions to do it, and it's almost inexplicable and totally, it's very difficult to understand why wouldn't you release people like the peaceful activists, the political activists and the human rights defenders.
Thank you. So just finally, the final question will be, what do you demand from the Bahraini government and the King of Bahrain, who has the authority and the power to do? I mean,
yeah. I mean, look, I think our role, what we try to do in general, Salam for Democracy and Human Rights, is an organization which is led mainly by Bahrainis. I'm like a guest. I bring an external viewpoint to what they're already doing, what you activists are already doing, and you know, I certainly would not think that I'm in a position to demand anything of any particular authority. What I can do, what I feel I'm able to do, is to be helpful and to point out flaws, which I think this whole discussion has been about. There are clear flaws that have been identified by international organizations, including the World Health Organization, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and other, you know, international NGOs working in human rights, that keeping individuals in prison is a bad idea. So I guess all I could do would be to say, well, you know, a helpful suggestion would be to make good on those previous calls, the long-standing demands, which have been, you know, parked for 9 years or so, to release the long-standing political prisoners, the peaceful activists. And you know, what's the worst that could happen? And if I was in a discussion with the King of Bahrain, I said, you know, what is the worst that could possibly happen? The worst that could happen is that we would welcome it. We would say, Bahrain, government of Bahrain, that is a great thing to do. You've released political prisoners. You honestly don't even need to address that side of things. You can say you helped save the population at large from increased infection and the possibility of death by reducing a public health risk. It is a complete win-win situation. You've got every reason to protect society, and by releasing them, you've done precisely that. But I want to just, and this will be my final point, COVID-19 has been an absolute wall of death and a complete shock to international relations and social relations and our individual personal lives, how we live our lives. And there will be changes after this. There will definitely be changes that we don't know now what they will be. And it's a threat. I mean, it's a massive public health threat, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for everyone to make a new start, to turn a new page, to going from, instead of a sort of tightly controlled media environment, to one that's slightly more open, say, one that is more accepting, to go from a culture perhaps of imprisonment and division and separation, to the kind of imagination and the vision of a pluralistic Bahrain that I get from you, that I get from other Bahraini activists that I knew, who are really, really amazing. There's such a vision of plurality and acceptance and inclusion that I get from so many of you, that it just befuddles me, it dismays me that cannot be shared. So this is an opportunity, I think, and this will be my last thing. This is an opportunity to take this personal, this collective, this national tragedy, for us all, international tragedy, and just turn it into an opportunity, turn it into something positive, turn a new leaf in society and make a new start. And I guess if there was one extremely strong recommendation I could make to the Bahraini authorities, who are completely capable in every way of arriving at very sensible conclusions, would be to urge them to look at the evidence, to look at what the international community is saying about prison releases, look at what they themselves have been doing